So the key elements of a parenting plan is, first, in the state of Tennessee, we have a uniform permanent parenting plan, and there's certain language in that plan that's provided by state law. Examples of that are not speaking bad about the other parent. There's also language in there that will set forth the parental bill of rights. That's the rights that each parent has in the state of Tennessee. Some of those more common rights are the right to receive notification from the school or about extracurricular activities. It's also the right to get medical or school records, and one of the bigger one is the right to get notice from the other parent if they're going to be out of state for more than 48 hours with the child, an itinerary of where they're going to be, and a phone number that you could reach them if you need to. And also in that permanent parenting plan, it will be ordered by the state that you all are to exchange income information each year, because that lets the parties know whether or not they might need an adjustment to child support. But then there's other parts in there that the parties can agree on, and that way they can control what happens with the children. The main thing is the day-to-day schedule, and that's where we're looking at where's the child or children going to be, with whom, and what days. We can also lay out specific holidays. So if there's a holiday that's important to you, we get that in the permanent parenting plan. It will also lay out child support. It will also lay out decision-making authority, who can make decisions for the child or children. And the four main categories of that are educational, religious, extracurricular, and medical. So those are the four areas that we're looking at with that. When you're trying to build a parenting plan, if you and your spouse or soon-to-be ex-spouse, and a lot of times we even get parenting plans when we have two parents who were never married. So if you and the other person who you have this child with can sit down and say, hey, here's what we think's best for this child, because ultimately at the end of the day, the child doesn't have a responsibility in your separation like the two of you do. So if you can sit down and work out something that's best for your child, that's what would be best overall. So you're going to look at your work schedules, the child schedule, and things like that. Then when it comes to holidays, I try to tell people, be as flexible as you can, because you've got to remember, this is your child. This is not a possession. So you've got to think about your child, and does your child want to go to 3 different homes or 4 different homes on Christmas Day and be tossed around, or what would that look like for Thanksgiving, or even your child's birthday? Do you want that child to be moved back and forth a lot on their birthday? So the main thing is just remember, put yourself in that child's shoes. So anytime you have a disagreement about the plan, obviously the first thing you should do is pick up the phone, call your ex, see if the two of you can work it out. If you can't work it out, a lot of times we see where people clash over they want maybe agree on extracurricular activities. And let's say, for example, you have joint decision-making authority. Well, then the plan will revert to, hey, if there's a disagreement about this plan, then you got to go to mediation. So that would be the next step, is to request a mediation if the two of you can't resolve it yourself. So if you have a conflict and you go to mediation, you can't resolve it. We see this a lot of time with extracurricular activities or certain maybe medical decisions that need to be made for a child. Then you need to file something with the court. Once again, a petition, a motion with the court to say, hey, we can't agree on this. Judge, you need to make a decision. So I tell most people the parenting plan is basically a fallback default. Especially with the day-to-day schedule. So let's say, for example, you have a schedule and tomorrow morning it's supposed to be your time, but it's the other parent's birthday, or they've had a death in their family and they need to take the child to a funeral. Try to be flexible with the other parent, because there will come a day that you need that parent to be flexible with you. The only thing you can't agree to modify without a court order is the child support. So there's a lot of times that a very detailed plan will make sense, and a lot of times it's in high conflict divorce, or it's also a lot of times where we may have one or sometimes both spouses who are abusive or are maybe very narcissistic. And so there are times that plans have to be set to a T, because people have to be able to follow that set schedule, because there's just not the flexibility. So to develop a strong parenting plan, it's key that you be able to communicate, but it's also important that you get a knowledgeable attorney who's drafted many plans, and they can say, here's some pitfalls, or here might be an issue that would come up with certain language. And if that's something that you're needing, please feel free to call us at Mandy Hancock Law.